Mythic Plus 12.1, it's all coming soon. Season 2 just around the corner. And PTR testing is really cranking up now. And we're starting to realize some of the top specs going into next season. So here we go. The 5 specs for Mythic Plus and 12.1 that are absolutely dominating. Let's get into this one. Top 5 specs for Mythic Plus from Dalaran Gaming.
Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. With the patch 12.1 on the PTR being tested over these past few weeks, it's actually been awesome observing so many different class specs and what they're capable of right now during the early testing numbers. With a handful of specs actually seriously starting to separate themselves from the pack, specifically when it comes to Mythic Plus Season 2 dungeons.
All right.
Obviously, PTR numbers by no means are a final guarantee of what the Lion meta is going to look like. Tuning is far from set in stone, and Blizzard is going to be dialing things in over the next few weeks. But certain specs, however, are still showing up a lot more often than others and are dominating anyway. Mostly because the core utility kit is actually so good for Season 2 dungeons in particular that it's really impossible to ignore. So for today's video, I wanted to really highlight the 5 specs that I think are built, at least at the moment, to possibly thrive within Season 2 dungeons based on pure utility, defensives, or what other tools they bring to the group just as a playstyle in general. But with that being said though, as always, if you guys do want to see more regular updates for Midnight as an expansion, especially when it comes to the upcoming patch seasonal content update of 12.1, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in.
Okay. Before he says it, I have not pre-watched this. All right? This is true. Okay, you guys don't fucking believe me, but I'm going to guess at what the top 5 are right now. I'm going to say Frost DK, absolutely pumping. I'm going to go with Protection Paladin is pumping. Arcane Mage, got to be Shaman, some Shaman spec. Either a healing or a DPS. So one of the Shaman specs. God, I can't remember which one is really pumping hard right now. I think Enhancement might be. And then, what's the 5th? What can I put in there as a 5th right now? I'm trying not to look at chat. Resto Shaman, maybe as a healer too, so we could have 2 Shamans in there, maybe. Okay, let's see what he says.
So one of the first few specs that I wanted to talk about is actually kind of a 2-for-1 feature because it's going to...
Oh, and maybe Arcane Mage. Arcane Mage might be in there. Let's see.
Come from the class of Death Knight because Frost and Unholy both look incredibly good.
Well, he put both, Frost and Unholy.
The DPS portion of Death Knight in particular looks incredibly powerful right now during all the PTR testing.
I keep telling people play Death Knight.
Because Death Knight still remain to be a very, very unkillable melee class. One of the toughest, most durable melee in the game, which makes him incredibly good for pushing Mythic.
I don't PvP a lot, but how is Death Knight doing in PvP? Because Frost and Unholy, like he said, they're pumping so damn hard and they're also hard to kill, which sounds like a great combo for PvP. They're bad in PvP? That's freaking hilarious, man. Like, how does that happen? How are you good in one and then you suck so bad in the other? I mean, I know, as a Blood DK, I can go in PvP, I'm fucking immortal. Nobody's going to kill me. But whilst PvP is garbage, well, that's kind of true, right? Yeah, I don't know. I have no knowledge of the PvP scene and what the best classes are and specs are in there right now. But I thought maybe these 2 would be, I guess.
Plus content, since they don't necessarily need to be really relying on the healer nearly as much as some of the other options. Even with the current new set of dungeons for testing on the PTR, grips are incredibly powerful. Technically, you can't do a lot of these dungeons without a Death Knight, but when you do have a Death Knight in the group, just being able to yoink mobs over to the group, it's so incredibly powerful. And the enemies that you have in a lot of the dungeons outside of bosses are still so groupable right now. You also have very short interrupt, a battle res, group defensive with anti-magic zone, anti-magic kit with AMS that could just immune magic damage to some degree, breaking out of mechanics with things like Death's Advance and Icebound Fortitude, and there's plenty of even mechanics with bosses that will stun you, so being able just to break out of a stun is incredibly powerful. It's really hard to tell which of the specs of Death Knight is going to be, whether it's Frost or Unholy. Both have seen a decent bit of play on the PTR. Frost in particular at some point was tearing things up until Blizzard tuned it. So whether one spec or the other ends up being the stronger, it's hard to tell, but a lot of players on PTR got a feeling like Death Knight is likely going to be played yet again. So far, they've had a winning streak of a couple of numerous seasons. They've been better, actually in a row. I think 4 or 5 seasons now in a row that Death Knight has gotten played at high-end keys, and they're likely going to continue having this dominance unless Blizzard does some major changes for some of the enemies in the dungeons. It's looking like Death Knight might be a really safe pick for now.
Yeah, Death Knight, I would say this season's great. If you want to pick up, like if you're just coming back to WoW Even this season, Unholy is like absolutely freaking pumping. So you want to pick a safe class that's good this season and next season? Yeah, pick Death Knight. You can either good into Unholy or Frost. Odds are both are not going to get nerfed at the same time. So you should have a one spec at least that's really good.
The other DPS spec that I think is worth highlighting is potentially Balanced Druid, mostly because they ended up getting a bit of a slight rework in the PTR, buffed a lot of their damage output as well, and while tuning is still up in the air, it does seem like the spec has actually gotten at least some attention. And when
Wait, did he say Balanced Druid? Because that one's pumping. Is that what this is? I didn't hear which spec he said. I should have had that in my top 5.
the spec gets a lot of attention on the PTR, that usually does mean good things for the upcoming season if it's tuned correctly. But it does seem like this season potentially could be a druid heavy season simply because of the dungeons that we have in the group. There's so many curses and so many poison dispels that a druid can take care of both of those mechanics
that's
super
true.
easily.
All the
Plus,
poisons.
with the druid having a legendary toolkit for 5-man content in particular, there's a pretty good chance that a druid is going to be played. On top of it, Balanced Druid brings a unique utility that actually synergizes together with one specific tank in the game, and it looks like that tank might actually be getting played for the season, which will open up an opportunity for Druid to get played.
Protection Paladin?
If it's not Resto, likely Balanced Druid will be the play based on the compositions the players are constructing or theorizing about over on the PTR. On top of it, Mark of the Wild is fantastic, so bringing the extra versatility, which is must-have for so many different dungeon cops over the past few seasons, does secure druids at least a spot where it looks like there's an opening for balance in particular, so boom kits potentially could be maybe possibly good for the season.
Boomies. All right.
Now, another spec that a lot of players are actually excited about is the Protection Paladin.
Yeah.
When it comes to tank options,
Fuck them, man. They're going to be the best. Ah, damn it. Again. Now, I not say again because they were the best first season. They weren't. It was a Brewmaster Monk for a while, and then we saw what's their names, the Bear Boys for Druids. So seeing them as you know, but what's it called for Druids? They got nerfed, so they're actually like the worst tank now, which is hilarious. They went from best to worst. So there you go. And then freaking Prop Paladin now rising up once again. So it looks like Prop Paladin's going to be the meta tank for season 2. Yeah, that's why I said them before the video even started. I figured they were going to be on here.
this one does seem like this could potentially be the strongest option heading into the second season. Paladin stocks right now are incredibly high, mostly because they got pretty much an entire rework for their talent tree. And there's a lot of massive conveniences and adjustments, especially with things such as Sentinel, which no longer replaces Avenging Wrath, just adds that extra defensive bonus into the ability essentially. And the entire talent tree rework has been fairly massive. This complete rework in the past has also been usually historically a sign that whenever a tank gets a big
J-Mal says, I think the tanks are going to be more balanced this time around. I will say the tank tier list, like when we're making one or when we've seen them, they're just S through A or S through B. Like none of the tanks are really like D tier or anything. So yeah, the tanks are for next season do look balanced. In terms of best to worst, there isn't a major separation, but if you have to separate them, it looks like Prop Paladin's going to be the S tier.
rework, they usually end up being very, very strong heading into the next season. So with Midnight, with
I'll
this
still be
spec
playing my
specifically
Blood
getting
DK.
a fairly sizable rework, if Blizzard continues on with the historical precedents they've set so far, it does seem like Protection, since it's getting a ton of attention, likely will be getting quite a bit of play in Season 2 in particular. On top of it, they did end up doing somewhat of a general nerf to the healing output for 12.2 specifically, where healers are not necessarily going to be able to maintain the group nearly as easily as Season 1. They're still going to be necessary and they're still going to be a must-have, but this does open up tanks that do a little bit of healing on the side, an opportunity to off-heal. And Protection Paladin may be
DKs?
one of the best support tanks in the game, not only with their output for healing, but also Hand of Freedom, Blessing of Sacrifice, and other ways to help their allies reduce or dampen the damage taken, which helps them synergize with a ton of different healers out there. Because
Right.
Paladins have a very unique set of tools, there's not too many overlaps with other classes. This also does open up Protection for technically the most amount of variety of different healers and DPS compositions they can play with, so
Yeah.
that type of versatility.
And when it comes to Mythic Plus, I mean, damage matters from all specs. And when you're talking about the tank doing damage, I mean, it looks like Prop Paladin's going to do the most damage. So that's also another reason why they look like they're going to be meta. Blood DK survivability-wise, fantastic, but they just don't do as much damage, which is why they're not the S tier tank.
It could possibly be one of the things that launches Protection further above all other tanks in the game.
And they're slower.
When it comes to healers, it looks like there's at least
too.
2 healers that players are feeling fairly positive and excited about. One of them being Mistweaver, which essentially didn't really get too many adjustments over in the PTR.
But it just got nerfed by 8% overall this morning. So I'm not sure. I'm betting now it's going to be a Resto Druid that really takes the lead. And maybe Resto Shaman. Because the Mistweaver was looking really good, but they just got nerfed 8% overall to all abilities this morning. All healers got nerfed? Well, I saw this morning it was really them and who was the other one that got nerfed? It wasn't just Mistweaver. There was another healer class that got nerfed. It might have been Resto Druid, but I have to go back and look.
A lot of changes and...
Oh, no, it was Evoker. Evoker that got nerfed in terms of heals. So... those 2 got nerfed a little bit.
Talent updates they've gotten is actually kind of minimal, which sometimes can either be a good thing or a bad thing. It may to some seem like, oh, maybe they're just not getting enough attention. Maybe they're going to end up falling behind inadvertently.
That was this morning.
Mistweaver had a very, very strong position in Season 1, and it looks like for the most part, they'll be able to retain that strong position heading into Season 2. The early numbers on PTR, at the very least for Mistweavers, do suggest they have a really good profile, both when it comes to their HPS as well as DPS. The lack of tuning, like I said, can sometimes be really bad, but so far it seems that the spec has been able to perform somewhat okay during the early testing. It does seem like that the strengths that it has outside of just raw numbers, with its utility and its toolkit, still continue to do really well and be well represented in the second season set of dungeons. The only thing that Mistweavers will notice is you do less spin to win gameplay. Like, you'll be pressing spinning crane kick a little bit less often, so you'll have to adjust your rotation to output good healing. But at the very least, it looks like the raw output shouldn't be changing too much together with the tier set and some of the hero talent options. Now, another healing spec that players are excited about from the PTR testing is actually Disc Priest, which seems like this spec has actually gotten a decent bit of tuning and a decent bit of attention over on the PTR. Mostly when it comes to giving them more consistent healing, less proc reliance, and more sustain. They also give them a more direct way to apply the Void Shield ability as part of their Apex, because now you can either proc it through Penance, or every Mind Blast is going to grant you a guaranteed Void Shield. So it's going to allow for even better shielding capability that doesn't matter whether you play into Oracle, which heavily leans into shields, or whether you play into Void Weaver.
Oh, I completely forgot to say Discipline Priest. By the way, that shield I think got buffed even more this morning. So Discipline Priest is looking real good.
Speaking of Void Weaver, there's actually now an opportunity for them to go either hero talent with quite a bit of attention given to Void to make sure that that playstyle does excel.
Or the shield got nerfed, but something else got buffed.
Damage output also help out Void Weaver through the atonement healing. So now it seems to be, at least at the moment, that there's potential for both of them to do well. And when there's 2 viable hero talent options, it usually gives a spec more builds, more ways to counter different enemies and counters in dungeons. So it gives you even more ways to be able to experience the content, and usually more builds does mean more versatility in that regard specifically. What also helps out Disc Priest potentially is because they pair so well with Paladins, especially as a tank. Prop Paladin Disc Priest is a very powerful combo that in the past seasons has been incredibly good, and there's an opportunity for both of those specs to shine together, in particular because of the unique synergies that they have. Disc Priest focusing on group healing, while Paladin can help off-heal very specific targeted heals, so that can be incredibly helpful for the both of them in order to potentially make a very good comp, especially with all the utilities combined together. Well, with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy this update or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like, as I would very
you didn't mention any mage classes.
Community, if you want to keep up with all things Midnight, link to that is in the description of every single video we'll post over on the channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.
Yeah, good video overall from Dalaran. Sam navying every single class. Yeah, I was going to put that one in my top 5 too. Tide was in chat. I'm kind of upset with myself that I forgot to say Discipline Priest. I've been touting them for, I even touted them this morning when we first started stream during the news segments. So yeah, I should have remembered them. Disc Priest is looking really good. Overall, like, safe as bet, Death Knight, man. Play Death Knight. Either spec is looking really good. And the rest of these boys, like Mistweaver, did get nerfed this morning, so we'll see if they still remain as a top 5 spec. But overall, I agree with a lot of what he said here. Good video from Dalaran.